I feel like every time I do this, I'm always wearing this same jumper. So all of the recordings just look like they're on the same day. But really, I just have next to no clothes. Happy full moon. It's always a time where whatever we've been putting to the wayside, whatever we've been keeping in the shadows gets illuminated. So if you are experiencing a particular dense few days, or you're really feeling a little bit agitated or irritable around this time, be tender with yourself, because all of what has been, hiding under there is being brought to the surface. So that's a really, really good thing, instead of just keeping it simmering down underneath. So the intention of this call is to simply give space and give breathing room to that which we have been suppressing, that we might not even be aware that we're suppressing. And then the reason why that is so important is that because whatever we're trying to create externally, whether it's health, love, money, a very specific intention to come to fruition, it's our subconscious programming that is determining what comes to life, what actually manifests. So the subconscious mind is the lower realm, which is our deepest, darkest, back of the house, upstairs in the attic area of our being. And so when we give really quiet, open space for ourselves to just simply explore what that might mean, we allow those programs to be brought to the surface, and then we get to choose to rewrite them. And of course, this might not always be instantaneously. Working with an ingredient like cacao as a plant medicine with that amount of reverence can be a really powerful vehicle for transformation. But oftentimes, this shifting of beliefs on a subconscious level takes some time. You're rewiring your brain. You're literally teaching your body a new way to be. So when we sit in space together like this, and we gather with like-minded people, and we drop into a specific intention of making this next half hour sacred, we create a container where transformation becomes really possible and accessible. So first and foremost, I would like you to kind of set that intention for yourself before you ground and settle in, that this space is for transformation, whatever that means for you. So welcome, and thank you for joining in. For those of you that might not actually know me, my name's Emily. That's a helpful place to start. I have been facilitating cacao ceremonies for over a year now, but I spent quite a bit of time in Bali early this year with a shaman by the name of Jamita, who spends most of her times over in the Andes and has been initiated to work with this sacred plant over there, and then has brought her teachings to me. And cacao is not just the blocks of chocolate that we see in the supermarket, or even the raw cacao powder that we see at a bulk food store. Ceremonial grade cacao means that there's been how am I going to say it? The littlest amount of processing possible, so that the magic and the density of the nutrients available with the cacao become the most bioavailable for us to digest. So cacao is incredibly high in magnesium, which especially for women is awesome, depending if it's that time of the month, and it's supporting your body in its natural cycles. It potentiates the release of dopamine and serotonin in the system, which is the happy chemical. So you might notice that every time you consume chocolate, even if it is just like store-bought, sugar-laden confectionery chocolate, there's still this aftermath of feeling good, right? There's this comfort and this emotional openness that happens. So a lot of us tend to go toward cacao naturally as a place to feel good. And so when we use it in ceremonial space like this, or if you ever get to join me in real time at a retreat or an event, which for me is much more potent and powerful because we all get to be in the same physical space, you'll notice that there is a definitely clear opening that happens on a cellular level. You feel it. And these other ingredients in cacao, nutrients like theobromine, which is actually in the human brain, but is also helped to release with the use of cacao exclusively. That's the only ingredient that we know that does that at the moment, which is pretty freaking cool. Opens up this channel for empathy. So we are more connected with others. We are more compassionate with ourselves. So the spirit of cacao, the byproduct of cacao, is this softness and this tenderness where we can drop in to just be more kind to ourselves, which I think is really, really underrated in this world of self-help and personal development, or, you know, just this seeking to be better, to be more improved. So if you have cacao with you and you have brewed your own according to the recipe on my site, or perhaps you have another recipe that's your favorite, I already drank mine this morning, so it's already in my system. So for today, I'll just be placing my hand on my heart throughout the guided process. But if you do have cacao, I invite you to start taking a sip. You can set a little intention beforehand, but it doesn't need to be super, super serious or a big deal. Just begin to take it into your system. And then throughout the rest of this call, you can either place it down in your womb space or hold it up at your heart. But for those of you that have never tried cacao or don't have it with you, simply making the intention to attune to the spirit of cacao. So putting aside the physiological benefits of this epic ingredient that we've been gifted from Mother Earth, and welcoming the magic of some of the spiritual effects. So like I mentioned before, this feeling of opening, of empathy, of feeling good. Anandamide is another like a chemical nutrient in cacao, also only found exclusively in cacao and in our brains, which if you've done any yogic studies or you're familiar with like that kind of language, Ananda means bliss. Literal translation is bliss. So that ingredient is the bliss chemical, which is really, really special. And I think that encapsulates totally what cacao is here for us to do, which is to reclaim our feel-goodness. So I invite you now to take a few deep breaths together as we gather and ground the energy. We might all be on different time zones, different parts of the world. So just closing down your eyes, getting nice and comfortable, sitting up tall, noticing if there's any pinching or pain, and just making sure that you feel really settled so that you can stay still and soft for the next 20 minutes or so. And together, let's just take 6 deep breaths. And this will completely recalibrate the nervous system and get us all on the same wavelength. So inhaling in through your nose. Pausing to hold at the top for just a moment before exhaling. Allowing the shoulders to come down, belly to soften. Breathing deeply all the way down into the belly. And with every exhalation, letting anything sticky from the day just simply slide off. Notice the gentle softening, quietening down, this energy of turning inward. Continue with 2 more cycles of breath, knowing that there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to be doing. And just slowly coming into your own version of sacred space. Whatever that looks like for you inwardly. Firstly, paying attention to the sounds that might surround you, the weather outside, any repetitive noises, the road, people. Just casting your ears around and without judging or labeling the noises or any sounds that you pick up on. Instead, just taking notice of what's there, what's here. And then shift that attention to the way that the floor feels underneath you, the chair, the couch, the bed. Feel yourself grounded down, rooted down, anchored, being held. And then either holding your mug of cacao or tea up at your heart center or your womb, or if you don't have a cup, just placing left hand over heart and right hand over the top or down over the belly. And simply asking, what's here? What's here? Activate that curiosity for how your inner realm is working. All the ways in which it's working for you to keep your heart beating, your hair growing, your eyes shining, your food digesting, your cells replenishing. But then also not dismissing some of the ways that this internal realm isn't working for you. As I said before, this lunar phase of the full moon allows us to get really radically honest about what we've been keeping in the dark from ourselves. And what we avoid, what we resist, persists. What we don't tend to builds up until it really needs attention. And so I invite you now to not be afraid to ask whatever needs to be illuminated to come forward. Whatever you deem as not good enough, or shameful, or unworthy, or negative. Perhaps it's a thought, a belief, an emotion, like shame, judgment, sadness, anger. Perhaps it's something that has already been done or something that you might like to happen or not happen. But allowing the light of the full moon to bring it forward so you can see clearly what might be underneath the surface, blocking you from what you really want, from feeling the way that you really want to feel. And so oftentimes throughout these processes, we want to come up with something really big and grand. But whatever come up for you right away, trust that. Rather than digging deeper or thinking that it can't be that, it's got to be something else. We're always given the information that we request. And so what to do with that, you might ask? Simple. This space of bringing what has been in the shadows to light simply asks for our acknowledgement, for our presence, and for our love. And so with the support of the softness and tenderness of Cacao, but also her depth, her fire, her strength, we wrap whatever this shadow aspect of ourselves is in those qualities. We become so present to that uncomfortable feeling that we've been really trying hard to avoid. That fear that tugs at our shirt before we go to sleep. It keeps us up at night. That repetitive story that we play all day long to fuel our frenetic nervous system. I'd like you to bring what is ready to be transmuted right to the forefront of your perception. If you're more of a visual person, you might like to imagine yourself in a clear blank room. And whatever this shadow aspect is, thought, belief, emotion, situation, play it like a video in the center of this room, like a holographic projection. If you're more of a kinesthetic feeling type, pay attention to where you notice the tension arise in your body when you bring this situation, feeling, whatever it is for you to mind. Notice if there's contraction in the heart space, if there's constriction in the throat. Perhaps your belly tightens, your hips feel sore, your lower back starts to nag you. All of these little clues, these evidence of the body wanting you to listen. And so before we rush to the end hoping to just feel good, let's allow ourselves for a moment to sit in the uncomfy. We're not going to build a home here and take residence, but we are brave enough to stay. And so perhaps just for these next few minutes, you're simply giving breathing space for the part of you who has longed to take up space in a state of feeling less than positive. The part of you that's tired or upset or hurt, that you've been calling to soldier on. The part of you that might be too much for anybody else to handle or hold. With the spirit of Cacao here and your hands on your heart or your womb, you can feel how held you are. And slowly into this holographic projection playing out of whatever is ready to be let go of this full moon. You encourage the light of the sky, of that big, beautiful moon, to crack into what is ready to be transmuted. You use this alchemy to take responsibility for what's yours and what's no longer yours to carry. What is yours to reclaim right now is that of your masterful creation, of your ability to take ownership of how powerful you actually really are. This is a time not to be perpetuating our victimhood, but a time to really know or really remember that we are masterful creators. And so with each breath now, invite in the light. Visualize filaments of light coming down from this bright, full, luminous moon, seeping in through the cracks of what once was, to be alchemized into clear, blank space for you to rewrite a new story. A fresh canvas to make color on. Every time your mind begins to wander and wants to think about the to-do list or drift off to yesterday or tomorrow, usher your attention back to just simply inviting in the light. As if there is a channel, a beam of light coming from the moon above, and letting yourself receive the life force of that light. Letting yourself bathe in that light. And safely feeling anchored and grounded, you allow yourself to open even wider. Notice with each inhalation how your heart feels a little more open to receiving what is meant for you. Simply repeating in your mind 3 times, how much love can I let in? How much love can I let in? And so as the light of the full moon totally transforms this shadow back into the light, what will you do now with that blank space? If you release the tendency, the temptation of feeling victimized by your circumstance, by the way that things always have been. if you feel like a prisoner of your own story, of your own mind, it's time now to reclaim your responsibility and put into action your ability to make your dreams realized. And so in this clean, blank space, this luminous, bright, white, sacred place, I'd like you to ask yourself now, what would it take for me to remember my innate worthiness of receiving all that I desire to thrive? What would it take for me to remember my innate worthiness of receiving all that I desire to thrive? Trusting whatever shows up, even if it doesn't make any sense. What would it take for me to remember my innate worthiness of receiving all that I desire to thrive? And with these last few breaths, in closing, trusting that you have made space to expand your receivership of all that you desire to thrive. And when you feel ready, you can gently flicker the eyes open, perhaps rubbing the palms together while the eyes are still closed. And then placing them gently over the cheeks, separating the fingers to let the light crack in as you adjust back to the room, back to this space-time. And depending on how you feel, could be stressed, agitated, anxious, just as before. Or perhaps you feel really at ease, grounded, peaceful, home in your body. That's okay. Whatever you're experiencing is totally valid and totally okay. My only offering for you is that for the rest of today or tonight, you surrender to the qualities of cacao and stay soft with yourself. Be gentle. And also trust that whatever shadow element you worked with today has been transmuted and let go. You don't need to pick it up again. Think about it a bit more, journal about it a bit more, unless you're really called to, of course. But I find that so often we will let go of something only to remember that we let go of it, so we picked it up again and think about it a bit more. So just be mindful of where your mind goes. And perhaps a better pondering question might be, who are you now that the shadow was out in the light? What is the new story that you want to write for yourself in replacement of what once was? Who are you now, and what is that new story? You get to choose. So if you'd like to work with that intention a little bit more, I have a 5-day challenge starting tomorrow, my time. So you've got less than 24 hours to join, spiritedseeker.com/challenge for 5 days of soul stretching, daily dares, 2 guided audio processes to really attune to who you want to be, how you want to feel, and then also tending to what's actually getting in the way of you manifesting that into real time. So I'd love to see you there to join spiritedseeker.com/challenge if you want to undertake that along with me. But until then, I will see you next time. 30 days, next month, full moon, cacao ceremony. Let's meet there again. Thank you so much, beautiful women. Have an awesome rest of your day.